Ciao Matteo.
Ciao Luca, and welcome back, everybody. We are back recording. I have the green back.
The
Okay.
green is back, and I don't know if
The-
you noticed, but I think that is for new series of podcast. I wanted to wear everything black. I
yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
be in theme with this conversation, and so
yeah, yeah. You should.
with
In this I
black
have
hat
our old logo. I have our old logo, Luca, because the
because you are
other T-shirt.
nostalgic. It's
Because I
nostalgia.
have nostalgic of the old logo, but more importantly, the other polos are dirty. So that's more important.
Okay, note to self that I need to make a new one for when we see each other. But today, Theo, listen, today is a great day, and I tell you the
It
reason
is.
why.
It is.
First of all, we just released a few days ago, almost a week ago, feature that in enterprise everyone wanted, and the only thing they could do was to admire how Vercel did it, and just go back and not funding in their own enterprise environment. So I think with this feature we make a lot of enterprise happy. But because you and I love to talk, and time flies, let's go straight into the point. Skew protection. What the heck is skew protection, Theo?
Okay,
Tell
so
me.
before talking about skew protection, let's talk about version skew. Okay,
Yeah, let's go
and
with version
okay,
skew. Right.
and fundamentally the problem. Let's frame the problem, and then let's talk solutions. Okay, there can be an infinite amount of solution to this, and but we explain our own. Okay, we explain Vercel. Okay, we explain our own, but more importantly, let's talk about the problem. Okay, the problem stems from one specific key tenant of distributed system. We always talk about distributed system in this podcast, and we all go back to distributed
We
system
should
for
rename
years.
it the distributed
So
system
the
bank.
problem literally is I have a server and I have a client. Okay, they
Hmm.
exist both. Okay, the client is a browser. Okay, it loads an
A
application,
website.
a
Yeah.
website. Well, more important, most of these websites today are more like apps. I more single page application.
Mm.
They have a lot of interactive navigation. They call endpoints all the time. It's they are very dynamic. Okay, they're not static. Okay, at the beginning the web was static, right? Okay, then it became JavaScript heavy on the front end. Okay, we define the community genetically define version skew as the situation where your server is running a version, okay, but your end user in their browser, okay, has loaded a previous version over there. Okay,
Okay.
imagine I think this happened to a lot of people mostly. Okay, you imagine that you open a Google Doc forever, okay, and every now and then you see it reload the page reloading. Okay, that is and typically very often it happens when you're not there, but you might have seen if you have it on the background on your desktop with a lot of windows like I have. My desktop is a mess. Okay, you have you can see it reloading from time to time. This happens also with other apps like Slack, Discord, like stuff like that.
Okay.
What happens is this is the reason why that happens is when they make a deploy on the other side. Okay, they have the code that is running on both ends. Okay, you have a client and a server. Okay, the fundamental problem is you typically test a specific server with a version of a specific client. Okay,
Mm.
almost nobody
Mhm. Yeah.
tests a server with the previous version of the client. Okay, most
But
people don't.
I,
Okay,
I saw recently, Theo, one thing that some websites they tell you there is a new version of the
yes,
whatever this
update,
app
yeah,
update.
yes.
How does that is
Well,
this thing
that so
related?
they manage this in a
Oh,
slightly different way. Okay, they manage it the hard way. Okay, that you can manage this the hard way. They can manage it the hard way. That is the hard way. Okay, so but basically you give your end user the guarantee that the previous version that they've loaded on their system on their browser works with the new server. So the
okay.
new server is deployed. Okay, there is a new version of what you're running. You need to update. Okay,
Okay.
this is the reality of this thing. Okay, or because there is people don't update immediately, so you need to guarantee a lot of versions running. Okay, it's a reality in microservices. Okay,
Yeah.
is reality in a lot of different distributed systems. You can do an API, okay, but you cannot break it, okay, without breaking the user.
That
Okay.
reminds me, for the people listening and still curious, Matteo and I, 3 years ago,
Yeah.
2 years ago, sorry, released a white paper for an algorithm to evaluate, sorry, the risk of change in a system, in a network of microservices.
Funny enough.
Great, a great, honestly, it's such a great thing, and we got a lot of people interested, but then we built so many things that is there in the archive of our white papers.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so the end result, okay. Now there is a problem. Okay. The problem comes from modern JavaScript frameworks, specifically isomorphic frameworks. Okay.
Like,
If Well, our good old friend Next.js, but
oh,
also React Server components in general, okay, and most of even React Server side render system in general, okay. So essentially, the vast majority of what people are building these days. So if you're using jQuery, you're probably fine.
I
Points for
mean, we
jQuery,
name
probably.
so many times Next that I think it's time that we really ask Guillermo to jump on this
Oh, there
back.
was a question on on Twitter. So
Ah,
we'll see. We'll see. So so there is Next. Okay, Next is great, and it simplifies a lot of things because it allows you to you know move code from the server to the front end and vice versa depending on where you need it. It's a great idea. Okay. The problem, though, is that the concept of version skew can really hurt you. Okay.
mhm,
Because now, every change, every interaction in your app can essentially break when there is a new deploy. Okay.
correct.
And our all our friends from the DevOps and from the DevOps world, and if you have read the book Accelerate from Nicole Forsgren and so on and so forth, probably will tell you, okay, that one of the greatest prediction of product success, okay, is the velocity of iteration. How much time it takes to deploy something, okay? How many deploy I can do in a week, okay?
Yeah,
What's the frequency of deployment, okay? This is one of the greatest thing that you can do. So you want to deploy a lot, you want to deploy fix fast, okay? The problem though is if you deploy them, you can break your users.
move fast and break things, basically. And don't break things, but as it's always that the faster you move, the more things you're gonna break. That's
Yeah,
kind of like,
yeah. So that's the problem, okay? So the solution to this, okay, so Next.js has some protection built in that when this thing happen, I think it automatically reloads, it detects the situation, but then it's disruptive for the user, okay? So you
yeah.
see that, so it's bad, okay?
Also because
That
it just reloads, it doesn't really kind of like find to which API to go,
Yeah, no,
right?
it reloads, deloads the new bundles, everything is fine now. Okay. So the solution to this is so Vercel, of course, found this, got this solution in front of them, okay, and decided they engineered a solution. They found this problem and engineered a solution for everybody to use, which is a great solution, by the way. It's called Skew Protection. Okay. And they are doing and the way they implement it, okay, basically they can detect which version, which deployment ID your application, your end user is connected to,
Mm,
okay, and essentially keep all the deployment IDs running, okay, up until up until those users are connected, okay.
nice. So it's some sort of garbage collector for
For your
bundles.
deployments.
Yeah,
Exactly. But it keeps them alive enough, okay?
yeah.
So that you can essentially deploy fast, move fast without breaking things, which is pretty good, especially if you are working in an enterprise and
Yeah.
you have high value transactions. Let's put it this way, rolling, going into that system. So that's kind of the situation over there. And however, implementing this in your own Kubernetes or your own cloud and so on was not easy. Okay, definitely not easy, and required some really serious DevOps to uh, um, to keep it running. Okay, like it's like require really serious engineering to keep it running. Mostly because when you deploy a new thing in Kubernetes, okay, and most better than anybody, Luca, you deploy your own pod, and then if you want to deploy a new version of that, the new version replace the old version.
Yeah.
Okay, but here you don't want the old version to replace the new version to replace the old version. You want to deploy a new version, and slowly, but very slowly, okay, and really in a controlled fashion,
Yeah.
migrate traffic to the new version,
And there's also
which
the and there's also the resource kind of like split, because you don't want to keep your first kind of like pod replica set with the full scalability, because if you are directing traffic, most likely you're gonna
yes.
decommission traffic. And we know the pain of the horizontal pod autoscaler in
Yes. No, no, you see there's a lot of, there's a lot of pain in inheritance in that are completely part of this problem. And yeah, the Vercel solution is fantastic in that regard. It has been, frankly, Luca, like how long did I talk to you whether we should be shipping this, Luca?
um I think we have been talking about Skew for 9 months.
Only.
Yeah, June of last year.
Oh wow. Okay. It seems like 3 years to me, but
No,
yeah.
June
Wow.
last year.
Okay. Nine months. Okay. Good. I'm very proud of
Yeah, but we actually, in complete fairness, we actually started working on it in February.
well, yeah, but because we had all the other components done to implement it very quickly.
100%, 100%. But
So
the real kind of like work on Skew, it took us like a couple of weeks of work to
wow.
assemble. Well, many people, they said it's impossible to do. So I always love when people say it's impossible, to kind of like go
Oh no,
back and show them that
it
it's
was
released.
really like, to some extent it's really um it's really critical. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about why it's simple for us to do this. Okay, and why for a it's, if you implement it with bare bone Kubernetes, it's close to impossible, or anyway very hard, and you will end up with a very similar architecture. um, so the fundamental problem, okay, the fundamental insight. So the first key point here is you need the gateway API. Okay, your beloved gateway API, Luca. You love the gateway API, right? You have the gateway API was announced. I remember that you called me. Okay, so
Well, it's been a long time to work on it, right? It's been Kong kind of like the pioneer there, and I was, at the time, it goes back like probably a few years. I don't
yeah.
remember exactly when, but it's a few years of work.
Yeah, so we had the gateway API, okay, but then, okay, so the gateway API can essentially act as this router, okay, and decide, oh, and then put a cookie in it, something like that, may read the cookie. So if there is, say, okay, these request needs to go to this set of pods, this other request needs to go to this other set of pods, okay, fine, okay, this is doable, okay, but you need somebody to instruct that that gateway API. Okay, and you also, as you mentioned, need a system to allocate the resources. Okay, for those. So it's fascinating because we had all the pieces. Okay, So we had our intelligent command center that where each application, when they start, it registers to exist, and then the intelligent command center can scale them up or down. Okay, so we already had all the pieces, and to do that in a reliable way. Now, doing that in an unreliable way it's kind of easy. Doing it reliably is not easy. Okay,
Yeah.
it's very finicky to some extent. Okay, so basically the gateway, okay, arrives. So the request arrives at the gateway. It's routed. Okay, when you deploy, you deploy a new deployment in Kubernetes. Okay, each deployment is completely new. Okay, you put it up there. Okay, and when it starts, it's self-registered to ICC. Okay, which becomes an active part of your system, and then which then instrument the gateway API to start directing traffic to the pods. Okay, after it's all said and done, okay, you the old pods, okay. So once this is up, the old pods move to draining state. Okay, the draining state means I need to wait until it's finished. Okay, until there are no more users no more traffic going in there. That is hard to measure to some extent. Okay, we have done a few different measures, including time. Okay, you can decide that you want to keep that alive for 12 hours. Okay, and at least that guarantees that the minimum amount of pod you have configured will stay alive for those 2-3 hours. So
Yeah.
that's needed. Okay, but then and then after it's all said and done, it goes to 0, and then it's deleted.
And your users are happy,
Wow. So
hopefully.
your users are happy. Okay. So in an enterprise setting, Luca, what will you talk about user happiness? In an enterprise setting, what will be the result if you will not handling this correctly?
Sure.
Ah, seems bad.
No. Yeah, churn. It's the user don't. I mean, considering that the average enterprise that is around e-commerce or anything is kind of like a shopping cart failure. You don't conclude your transaction. I mean, at the end of the day, the user is unhappy and the CEO is not going to have a good time at the next board meeting. That's the reality. It's plain and simple money related. So it's loss of clearly revenue. And that's actually kind of like, if you think about Web Vitals and all those kind of things, the number one is because you said about releasing, right? It's not only about new features, about fixing bugs. Many websites that have very static way of releasing promotions. Other websites they have, it all depends on the kind of nature. But at the end of the day, users wants to have a smooth and frictionless experience, right? They don't want to see your website reloading.
Nope. No.
And to be honest, when I gave you the example of like, oh, there is a new version, reload the website. My first point is, why don't you do it for me? Why do I need to reload their website? Like, it's one of the things that I don't get about this device is really the update of the apps. It's kind of annoying because when you need the app that you never use, they force you to update and you need to wait. And most of the time you don't have time to wait.
Absolutely. And it's a nightmare, right?
It's not only a nightmare, it's just like frustrating because I give you an example. You know that I take pictures of the moon and I use my iPhone to control one of my Sony cameras and as a remote, right? It's way easier to control it with the iPhone. And the time that there was a clear sky on full moon and the moon was in perfect position, I opened my app, I connected my camera, I did everything, opened my app and it said, sorry, you need to update the app because the new version is not compatible with. I was like, you're gotta be kidding me, right? And that's 5 minutes. It means that I need to change the position of the camera again. So I know that is probably a very, stupid example, but it's frustrating,
Well,
right?
yeah, it is. So anyway, this is the situation, and I am very, very excited to see how it would work if people will find it useful or interested to this kind of tech, or they are resigned in not in slow deployments.
But what is the let's also try to kind of like understand what is the if you have the ICC installed, right?
Mhm.
Do you get this feature out of the box, or is something that
You need to configure your gateway correctly. Okay, you need to have a gateway supporting the gateway API
okay,
in your
which
system.
if you are updating Kubernetes to the latest version, then you should have it.
Yeah, yes, Luca, but you also know that we the get keeping software up to date is not usually done. So this
And
is a
if
requirement.
and if I don't have the gateway API, but I have a traditional ingress controller,
This is not going to work right now.
okay,
You need the gateway. We support only the gateway API because it does that kind of heavy lifting and generic configurability. So we didn't want to, when building this, we didn't want to say you need to use our ingress controller for our
no.
gateway, okay? Because that would have been the other alternative solution. It's still technically possible to do that. There is nothing blocking us to do that,
Yeah, but who
okay?
is gonna do it when they
But
already have Kong installed
yes,
or they have
exactly. Again, I am. It's simpler to just
Solo?
use one of those. Exactly.
And by the
Like
way,
it's
for people using Kong, Kong is fully compatible with the gateway API. So kudos to them in that sense. So if you're using Kong, you can easily use this feature and nothing will happen to your Kong. But like, okay, so we went through a little bit of the overall architecture, but how does it really work in details? How do we do that? How did we
so
implemented it?
the
However,
the fundamental part is essentially data plumbing. Okay, you
mm,
need so the key insight. Okay, is in the inheritance architecture of our intelligent command center and VAT. Okay,
mm,
when VAT starts, it can register itself to the intelligent command center. It's self-registered there. Okay, so the intelligent command center is aware. Okay,
yeah,
now what you need to do is when you do this deployment, okay, you need to add the deployment ID. Okay, you need to tell VAT to tell our friend the um, pass some headers through. Okay, once you
okay,
have passed some labels, Kubernetes label, that Kubernetes label, okay, is then used for all of this processing, okay, and identifying correctly. So then it can just say, oh, I can route my system to that label, to the pod with that label. Okay. And that's it. I can route the traffic to the pod with that label. And it just update the config. Okay. Most of this is literally just react, being able to react quickly to
mm,
these kind of information and having an architecture that can self-detect things. Okay. And work without you having to orchestrate it all.
that's so cool. And that's
And
awesome.
there
And
is one bit that is
uh-huh,
fantastic here, Luca. The bit is the autoscaler.
what's happening to the autoscaler?
Oh, well, because we have an autoscaler that can start ramping up super fast. The moment the traffic start arriving on the new pods, they will ramp up very quickly, very immediately.
And what about the other system? We can also gracefully shut
Exactly.
down.
They will be gracefully drained. So it's because of the beauty of the autoscaler.
That, by the way, without revealing too much, we are releasing a new version very soon. A new
Haha.
updated and with an algorithm that is
How many
unique.
pages is the algorithm?
32, 34, the white paper, something like
Yeah,
that. Right now.
31, 31. It's a lot of
So
maths.
so it the interesting piece is exactly what you just said, right? Is that we took away from the cognitive overhead that people are forced to many of the utilities and functions that the modern web requires. And I mean, to be honest with you, if you compare our design in Kubernetes for Node with what basically everyone claims in serverless and so on, we are extremely more adaptive and performant because we are extremely highly contextualized, like you were saying. So we understand the context of these applications, different than many other systems. But Theo, just in the closing of this episode, what is the role then of Prometheus? And let's add a little bit more color to
Well,
the,
the role of Prometheus is like you
because
need to
people say
know.
I can do it myself,
Yeah,
right?
you need to. So the fundamental point is, well, doing it yourself, okay, is of course 100% possible. You will need essentially to rebuild or end up with an architecture that is roughly very similar to what we have built. Okay,
Well,
essentially,
sorry, Matteo, open and close back for sure.
it's
And
open source.
it's easy to rebuild. It's open source, and you just gave them the recipe.
Yeah, but it's like you will end up doing this kind of thing, okay, in a similar way,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
with the gateway API. Essentially, I would
I,
say part of the good enabler here is having a control plane that manages this, okay, that you need to have, okay, especially for the draining side, okay. Like you don't want to be able to have a human or a cron to tear down apart the old deployments.
I
Okay.
know, not a cron job that goes around
Well,
and
you want
scout. Huh?
what you want a system that can detect if there is no more traffic, okay, and keep that alive to never break a user. So how to do that? How you do that? Well, you need to monitor the traffic. So to monitor the traffic, you need something like metrics, and metrics can be collected via Prometheus or can be collected via OpenTelemetry,
Yeah.
whatever. Pick your poison. Okay. Right now we are heavy as a company. We are heavy on Prometheus mostly because it's the original, okay, and more diffused. But it's like there is nothing blocking specific
No.
to Prometheus. You need to know if there are traffic flowing into that direction. The moment you know there is traffic, you can say, "Oh no, there is still traffic. Let's stop. Let's keep that around." Okay, and then maybe cut it after a day or half a day or something like that. But it can even cut it after a few minutes if so configured, if detects there is no more traffic there. So
That's insane. I mean, I when I was at Talos, for example, this feature would have been lifting people up for the success of the website. Like
yeah.
you don't know how many times we had to stop deployment because we didn't want any user to have issues, right? And we said we don't know, or we had this super extremely complicated login system that was detecting sessions open and no. I mean, it was like madness going into reality, right?
So you don't want to stop the word, put it a big maintenance page on your system, okay? And
Even worse, that we would not actually release
yeah.
because we see that there were session open and then
Oh,
say no, we
look!
cannot release.
Some friends. I was chatting with some friends that they deploy things to production on Friday night.
Yeah, to avoid
After
the
hours.
week. Yeah.
Yes. So they deployed it on Friday night after hours, and they pull in. I don't know. They said they go to bed at between 2 and 4 a.m. Something like that.
It's a
Ah,
recipe
look.
for a disaster. But the other thing is that what we are doing is that we see the features that the people really crave in enterprise and that they also make sense to us. And for our experience, we face those challenges. And, you know, like you just said, we build all the enablement parts. That's why for us it's super fast to release these features because we have all the components that are complicated to do. Like, how do I handle then traffic balancing in an autoscaler? We have already an algorithm for that, so sure, it's taken care of, right? The hard part in this round was the integration with the gateway API because the rest we already basically had all the primitives there. So and that shows how VAT and the ICC are combined to be really that kind of like kernel and let's say operating system for this modern web and modern JavaScript applications. And I mean, we cannot say much, but I think in the next week we're gonna show some other very, very, very cool things that we can do, and show once again the power of what we build with Watt is insane. It can enable incredible things. So I'm excited about the future. So I think we told everyone what Skew Protection and Skew versioning and how we implemented is. There's only one thing left, Theo, to tell everyone one thing. You should try it and come back next week. Ciao, everyone. Ciao, Theo. See you
Ciao.
later.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.